Hello, this is the last part of Chapter 13. We're going to cover ergonomics, and we may touch a little bit on health. This will be all that we'll cover for the lecture portion of the chapter. You're still responsible for the written chapter within your book, but this is all we're going to go through in lecture. I want to start off by talking a little bit about ergonomics. Now, of course, you've heard this term before, and if not, let me introduce you to it. This is the science of fitting a work environment to the people who work there. To put it differently, this is adapting the tools you use to work with the physiology of your body. Now, the way we see this is how different things are designed. So, how your monitor may tilt or swivel, how you have a document holder if you're doing a lot of typing, the posture of your back as a user, the height in which your table may or may not adjust, whether or not if you need a footrest or the type of chair that you're using. These are all ergonomic decisions that have been made either by you or by your employer, which affect your ability to work. Now, if we look at each one of these things that we briefly mentioned, we can see how they play, what role they play in your productivity. Okay, so let's look at the tilt and swivel of the monitor. This can help depending on the height of the individual doing the work. So, if you point it up, that may make it for a taller person. If you point it straight, in this instance, it's for someone her height, or if you swivel it down for a shorter person. These type of viewing angles can make it very difficult to work if they do not match your particular stature and position. Same thing with the chair, how it adjusts, the seat back, whether or not it has lumbar support, or the height of the desk, whether or not it will move. All these things are important when you're doing something for a long amount of time. And something that you all should be aware of, workplaces are becoming more and more digital, which means that you'll spend a lot less time actually up and moving around and more time seated. And if this is the case, you will need to make sure that you have an ergonomical solution for your workplace. Now, when we talk about design for mobile users, we're talking about the difference between a desktop versus a laptop. Not necessarily a smartphone. A smartphone plays a small role in this, but moreover, talking about a notebook or a laptop. So things that one should be aware of. When you have a travel mouse that you use or a travel keyboard, they can help while on the go, but they are not as ergonomically designed as the mouse that you have on your desktop. Something else is a docking station. Now, what would make this important is that when you're someplace where you can sit, instead of using a laptop, which ergonomically will hurt your back, does not have good viewing angles, it's not good for where you put your hands and arm placement. If you dock it, that'll allow you to then use equipment such as a standard keyboard and a standard mouse, which will support you a little bit better. Same thing with a notebook or table stand that just helps elevate it to get the height in a better place. And then smartphone docks are available only on a certain specific phones. I know that the Galaxy has a docking capability where you can just plug it in and work off of your phone with a keyboard and mouse. But other mobile operating systems do not. So a smartphone doesn't come into play for most people. For many, but not most. And some examples of that, if we look at the docking station, you plug the monitor into some type of equipment that allows you to show it on the bigger screen. A lot of times this is connected to a keyboard. And I know this is the most beautiful keyboard you've ever seen sketched. And a secondary mouse to where you can use your laptop as a traditional desktop. There are some stands for tablets that allow you to kind of hold it up. And then the smart dock, again, I don't know how practical this is, but it is available. So depending on your particular situation, it may be a good fit. Here are just some tips for mobile users. When you're using a notebook or a tablet, make sure that you set it on the table and get it out of your lap. Elevate the device so the screen is proper to where you're not bending your neck. Use a separate keyboard and mouse. And that's what we were talking about here, where you just kind of attach these accessories. And then pay attention to the size and clarity of the display when you buy things. So as you all are all running out, getting the new iPhone X or 10, depending on which camp you're in, or if you're getting the Galaxy or all these new devices, make sure that when you are buying these devices, you're thinking about the tilt and swivel of the monitor, if it has a monitor, the way that you'll interact with it, your inputs, and how you will view it. Because these things will matter in how productive you'll be with that particular device. Okay, so cover this one more time. The different ergonomic hardware are keyboards, keyboard folios, trackballs, tablet arms. And a tablet arm is just something that holds your tablet up to make it easier for you to see. Document holders do the same thing, just with documents. Anti-glare screens. Now, that can be a screen or a screen protector. And this will just make it easier for you to look at the particular screen of the device without all the reflective glare from the screen itself. A keyboard drawer that's under the desk where you can slide it. And computer gloves, I don't know. Something that is new that's coming out are anti-glare lenses. So this will block all the glare that comes off of screens, and they also have blue light filtering lenses. And this has the effect of limiting the amount of blue light that is absorbed by your eye, making it easier to work longer or reducing the strain for the amount of time that you are currently working. So this type of ergonomic perspective is something that can make your computing experience more enjoyable, but be more productive. Okay? And here's the stuff we just talked about. This is what that keyboard looks like. Your hands are split in a more natural position. Here's a keyboard folio, attachable keyboard, ergonomic mouse. There's a tablet arm. Here is the tray or drawer, and then here are computer gloves. And typically the gloves are to support your wrist, to keep your wrist even with your hand, and this protects against carpal tunnel, which is a disorder caused by typing. Okay? And then just some good habits when you're computing. Make sure that you exercise your fingers and your wrist. You take breaks. You rotate your task. You don't do the same thing for super long periods of time. And, taking breaks will help with eye strain and soreness. You get rid of ambient light. Make sure you're refocusing your eyes. The older you get, the less of an option this one will be. You will be increasing the font size. And then the computer glasses, these are kind of those blue light anti-glare glasses we talked about. Okay. So the other thing I just want to talk about is, we're going to skip there real quick, information overload. All right? You all are interacting with a world where there's more information at your fingertips than there was known information in the entire world and the entire history of mankind or humans. With that said, filtering between the internet, news, newspapers, magazines, articles, emails, and social media can be difficult. What I would suggest is, and what our author suggests, is that it is not your goal to absorb every piece of information on a subject. More effectively, you should just find 2 or 3 sources for information and stop there. You should always do more than one, because one source can mislead you or misinform you. But 2 or 3 sources is good. And the other thing is, when you are doing email, don't check email all day long. Schedule it several times a day. Set reminders to where you remind yourself to take breaks. And make sure when you're checking messages, updates on your social media, that you're doing this periodically. So periodically is not every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes. Maybe it's once an hour, 3 or 4 times a day. And the last piece is, when you install an app, do not let it send you notifications. Why do you need those notifications? Unless it is something critical to your health or your success, I would encourage you not to allow it to send you notifications. All right, so this is the lecture portion for Chapter 13. I will upload the entire slide deck, which has a little bit more stuff that we're not covering in the lecture to help guide you through the chapter. Of course, the chapter information must be read alongside of this.